Call the roll.
Trustee Checkhead?
Here.
Trustee Lesko?
Here.
Trustee Margolis?
Present.
Trustee Mena?
Present?
Trustee Messernick?
Here.
Trustee Sterling?
Present.
Trustee Verma is present. Student Representative Matthew?
Present.
Student Representative Hoon?
Present.
So we can go for Pledge of
Yep.
Allegiance.
Please rise.
Stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next item on the agenda, approval and overview of today's agenda. Do we have any changes? Seeing none, can I have a motion?
Move that we approve the agenda.
We have a
Thank you.
motion.
Second.
Second, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Approved 7-0. Next item on the agenda, approval of the consent agenda. Today we have claims and warrants and approval of the regular minutes from our April 24th meeting. Do we have any comments?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda. Second. Support.
Any comments? None? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Okay, Julie, next item on the agenda is correspondence. I don't believe we have any, do we?
We do not.
Okay, moving on. Next topic is presentation. Our first presentation this evening. For our first presentation, we welcome special guest Tom Laszlo. I understand that he'll be sharing with us today some of the historical artifacts that were dug up at the Pavilion Shores Park. Historical Commission Chair Kathy Crawford was supposed to join us as well, but I believe she became ill and was unable to join us. But Novi's own Betty Lang is here. She's a collection specialist, and she's here to step in and assist.
Tom, as we go along, if you can just go ahead and make your comments. Okay. Let's get down here. Okay, we need to do it to slideshow.
It's right up at the top.
Yeah, it's just I hate this without a mouse. Okay.
You want to click on from beginning. Oh, well. Yeah, go ahead. I think if you do click there.
It should just go starting right here.
There you go. Click on from the beginning. Oh. There we go.
Okay, so I can just do this, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not totally prepared for this because I just received the information, so I'm going to rely on Tom to go through and make his comments. So Walled Lake was the closest beach to Detroit, and it was about 25 miles outside the city. So it became a weekend gathering for people, and some of them even camped out here. So as the history progressed, it became an amusement park, a casino, and they also had bathing facilities, and they had huge slides in the water. So after some injuries with the slides and a death, they removed those, and then you could do speedboat rides for 15 cents. So that was pretty. This is what it looked like in the early 1900s. And then we talked about the bathhouse and the dance hall. And you can see here, it was very pretty actually. And this was that huge water slide I mentioned, and this was fun, but it became very dangerous. And this was the first dance hall. And then later it looked like this, and this was really a gathering place because all the name bands, especially in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, came out here. And that's what attracted the crowds. And this is part of the amusement park where you had various rides. This is what it looked like after it had been here a while and kind of abandoned. You can see all of the weeds and everything around. These were some of the rides. And these artifacts that are in the case over here were found by Tom when he was doing excavation of Pavilion Shores Park. These are some of the things that are in the box that we thought were especially interesting. The one to your right upper is, do you want to talk about that one, Tom?
Yeah, that one was that was pre-1900, and they used to give those out to people that they wanted to keep a record of, just in case of a death, they kept a record. It was before the life insurance. But what it is, it says telegraph number 77639. If you flip that over, it says, if you find me, read the instructions on the reverse side, which is this side. And it's this later became an insurance company. But it was just a method of tracking people, because it was in Boston, a lot of people came through that area, and no telling where they ended up. But this one ended up at the beach, and this was in really good shape. It was in the layers of mud. That's why it's such good shape. I've seen others. I got online and checked some others, and they were all corroded, and everything. It was pretty much wore away. You couldn't hardly even read anything. But that one's probably 1893. That was before the more recent ones have the actual insurance company on there, but this one doesn't say anything about the insurance. So, and then that bottle was found over to the left. There used to be a, if you're looking at the actual piers that were out there, that bottle was found to the left, maybe 100 feet, and there used to be a old marina or a bait shop there. And then that's where that was found. Now the tile, I don't know if that was from maybe the casino bathrooms, or it could, because it all got mixed up during the excavation. The little Shores token, that's what they gave you when you came to the bathhouse. You put all your items in this basket, and then they would give you that token. And then you'd go out and go swimming, and then just bring your token back, and they'd give you back all your belongings. But I found several of those. That one's one of the older ones. They have diamond or pyramid-shaped ones. There's round ones, clover-looking ones. But that's probably 1928, 29, around there. But that's pretty much those items. This one up here on the right-hand corner, I checked on that, and there are not many of these around. That one person put a value on that at about $280. So there's not very many of these. The newer ones, the more recent ones, have the, like I say, they have the insurance company on them. They're not worth as much. This was like the start of this Boston insurance company.
Do you want to mention, in the box, there are shell casings. Do you want to talk about
Yeah, on
that?
the shell casings, they actually use live ammo in their arcade. So I found a lot, which would not go over well today. But I found them all over, just little 22 shorts. But that was pretty funny. I remember going to the arcade, but I don't remember that part of it until I actually found them, you know. So it was pretty interesting that, you know, everybody and their brother, and actually back at that time when they had the picnics, and Ford used to have their picnics there quite a bit. So that whole area was used quite a bit, but that was pretty interesting. It was right around about where there's one ride that has like a torpedo, or 3 torpedoes that go around, and it was just to the right of that. But because of the locations, I was able to kind of, you know, there was more, where I found the dimes, I would find there was one little area where they had excavated, and there was a drain, and I found some little plastic toys there and some marbles and things, but they were all associated with the park.
Okay, do you think that gives you all a good idea of how it started out here and what we have where Pavilion Shores Park is now? So Tom lived near the
South.
casino.
Yeah, I lived on South Lake Drive. I grew up on South Lake Drive, down about maybe a mile on the left-hand side. And we used to come down to the amusement park and go to the picnics, and I went there almost every day in the summertime, swim. A lot of people don't know that there was a culvert that went underneath 13 Mile, or I think that would be 13, where it turns off to East Lake Drive. But I've got a picture in there of my sisters, two of my sisters and her friends that grew up right around that area, right up against the culvert. So that was kind of interesting too. It was just going back, there's some marker trees there too, like where it was good that they kept some of the older trees. There's one tree that they kept that would be by the old entrance, it would be by the casino side. And then there's another set of trees that actually mark where the tunnel was, that are still there today. But they were, in the picture, they're this tall. So, yep, that's it.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Trustee Mena, at this time, I'd like to welcome you up.
Did you want to just explain a little bit more, though, somebody what the box there? Or-
Absolutely. Tom has made a very generous gift to the Novi Historical Commission and the Novi Public Library. It's a shadow box that has been created with many different tiny little artifacts that were excavated from the Pavilion Shores property. So what we want to do is we want to welcome people to visit the library and to visit the local history room so they can actually see these artifacts. I know that Betty is working with the Historical Commission to actually put this on display in one of our cabinets and perhaps make more display of it and make more recognition of it as we move forward. We will, in our newsletters, we want to make sure that people are aware of what we have found. We hope that this will also stir up some interest from other people in our community, that if they have historical artifacts and they want to share them with the library, that they would do that. Tom's, for lack of a better word, he's become our guinea pig because he was the first to make such a wonderful donation when it came to historical artifacts. And we're so excited to have them and to have them on display. And yes, oh, thank you, I like that, but he has, and so now, and I know that Betty has been working, she put a call out just this past few weeks to get documents and to be looking for things that you might want to share that are of historical value for the library. I know that Trustee Mena also wants to make a presentation as well to you, Tom, so I'm gonna walk over to the mic.
Yeah, there's a lot of other things in there, and it's just too much to really go through right now, but it was fun. I was glad Jason, you have an ordinance, you can't metal detect, so the ground was already tore up. I couldn't do much more damage than an excavator, so I thank him for letting me do this. And but a lot of those things, I know the last presentation we had, a lady came up to me and had one of the, you didn't see it on here, but it's in there. It's those little tokens. You put 5 cents in the machine and crank it. You can put your name or whatever. There's some old names in there. In fact, there's one Mayberry in there. So, who knows,
Great, thank you.
There's also lipstick cases and
Lipstick, those are 1932 and 34. They're all little, real nice, well-designed lipstick case, rouge cases. We got a little mirror on them. The lipstick are all, there's one that says outdoor girl on it, really detailed, all copper, brass, really nice.
Well, we thank you, and on behalf of the Library Board of Trustees, we'd like to give you this certificate of appreciation. It is in recognition for your generous donation of a shadow box containing historical artifacts to the Novi Public Library, so thank you very much. A new artifact.
That way it helps us promote, we put a name and a face with it.
Yeah, and another friend, he donated 400 pages of documents to
I,
I think he gave Kathy.
okay,
And then he's got another friend that's got some things that, so, I guess Kathy's gonna be the point person, we'll just send everybody to her.
and we'll work with Betty as well for
There's
historical.
so much history there, I mean, just huge amount of history, I mean, that's everything.
And we look forward to that. I think that just builds the historical value that we have and what we're growing for our community. Any questions? Yes.
Yes, do we have any type of an overlay as to where the items within Lakeshore Park were actually located? You know, from the roller coasters to the dance hall 1, dance hall 2.
Yeah, I don't have anything written on paper, I had a little art, originally I had a drawing, a sketch from the original plan that they kiboshed, I think, 2 or 3 years ago, and, but pretty much a lot of it came from, I had them bring me the dirt that was actually where that shoreline is now, where you excavated back to, that was excavated back to probably the original shoreline, because we pulled up Michigan fieldstone in cement, and Jason also has one of the, it was a hand-cut post that they used for piers also. But they had pulled that beach back that far, so right now, I don't know if they did it, they planned it that way, but it's originally back where it originally was, probably, you know, in the 20s and 30s. So it had crept out so far, I mean, it probably crept out about, I would say maybe 20 feet, you know, 20 or 30 feet just over the years, you know, sediment and everything building up, and they built the shore up, but right now it's right back to, so a lot of the artifacts I got right from that, the good ones, like this last one with that brass token, or whatever it is, that brass token, that was designed, the reason it has those little curls on it was designed for suspenders, so you hook it in your suspenders.
Gotcha.
And that I found, and that I had them bring me that dirt from when they excavated back to those pilings. And there it was, and I just pulled the dirt back, and I mean, it just, real easy pickings there.
Wow.
Yeah, around the casino area, there was so much debris, you know, just from.
Tom, excuse me, can I just ask you to come up to the mic, because I'm not sure anybody outside of this room will be able to hear you otherwise. Thank you.
Yeah, there was so much debris just from, you know, previous excavations that a lot of it got moved around quite a bit. But as far as the artifacts, most of them, I mean, if you were to look at the footprint of the old amusement park, almost all of them came within that area there and along the shoreline. Like a lot of the makeup cases, the lipstick, those things, the little tokens, those primarily came from the actual amusement park area, you know, but inside the roller coaster area. But a lot of the tokens that were used for the bathhouse and all that, I actually found some in the water, but they were closer to the bathhouse. Some of them actually drifted down shore. I found one maybe 4 houses down. I have a friend that owns those houses on the corner there, and I was out in front of his place, and I found some things that were drifted down from there. So, but yeah, if you need something, I can put something together for that. Just on, I have a pretty good idea where everything's at, even though it's all tore up right now. So,
Thank you very much. Any other questions?
How long did your dig last, Tom?
about 3 months, 2.5, 3 months. I got there early summer, and then ran all the way till the end, all the way, almost probably 2 weeks till the opening, all the way to the opening. Because every time they dig a trench, you know, for a pipe or whatever, I go over that, you know, so I mean, it was like good pickings for me, you know, like they were doing, because the depth is where the time is, you know, I mean, you can almost see when they pulled the dirt back from the beach area, you could see layers, and each layer was a time frame, you know, like here I would find like earlier coins, and then later, and then, you know, and it just, So I had a pretty good idea of the slope, and they filled all that since then. I mean, most of it is buried under maybe 8 feet of dirt now, so you never get it. You know, you never find any of these again. So I was fortunate to get in there and get everything while it was there, so.
It was a great, when I was a kid, we used to go there, and it was a great place.
Oh,
As a kid, I thought it was great anyway, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I've got photographs of just, I mean, hundreds and hundreds of people out in that water with the swings and the teeter-totters and the speedboat docks, and we used to dive off the top of the speedboat dock. You know, we just had a riot. I mean, that was our summer, that park. I tell you, that was it.
Super. Okay, anybody else? Again, thank you, Mr.
You're welcome.
Lesko. We really appreciate your service. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's not over with. I'm still kind of looking, so. In fact, I brought one other thing I found. I was gonna put this in the case, a little watch, it's a little children's watch, if you wanna put that in there. But, yeah, I'll probably have to stick to the line. I scuba dive, so it can go underwater, so there's still the piers I can check out and all that without getting in trouble with me.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, continuing on presentations, next presentation, a year in review, Student Representative Jessica Matthew and Zhang Huang.
Okay, sorry, we got music. Okay, so this is our annual year in review report. Okay. Okay, so our goals for 2013 to 2014 were mainly outreach goals. So increase our presence in other school districts, including Northville and Bald Lake, and increase programs, information, and address teen interests, as well as encourage the use of teen space.
And then we had all our tab meetings. So our officers were Krista Schaefer as president. We had Z for vice president, and then I was secretary, and then Nina Lee for activities director. So we met once a month on Friday at 3:30 to discuss new ideas for programming. And then members could also get volunteer hours if they came to the meetings. Yeah.
All right, so what did we do this year? Well, we regularly met with Miss Margie to discuss new ideas. And we talked to Jen Preston and Suzanne Carpenter, who are the teen services librarians, to make sure that we were meeting the needs of the teen community. And we also had a bunch of different activities, as you can see, summer reading program, teen space, etc. Okay.
And then there was the summer reading program. So in the summer 2013, we held like a lot of activities to go with it, and it was a really strong number of attendants and volunteers, with 606 participants and 101 teen volunteers.
And then we also worked the summer internship, and we would like to give a big thank you to the library for allowing us this opportunity. We were able to learn many new leadership qualities that are crucial to our future, including how to get teenagers to actually do something without complaining. And we trained volunteers, helped answer questions, and helped with summer programming.
Okay. And then Teen Space. The Teen Space has done amazing this year. We have seen like over 500 students each month, and it averages out to about 40 students a day. So we would like to thank the library and the Parks and Rec and Culture Services and the school district and the youth assistants for offering their time and commitment to the youth.
So, what did the teens think? Well, they were very appreciative of Teen Space and the freedom that they are given. Secondly, they are grateful to have student representatives who listen to their voices, understand their needs, and relay the message back to the library administration.
And then upcoming projects. So Rushira, our next student representative, will be joining Z, and they will be working together to plan new projects that will be announced later.
Yep.
And that's it.
That's
So
it.
thank you for a great year.
Thank you.
I think the thank you really goes to the two of you ladies for stepping up and doing a fantastic job moving us forward this past year. We are so proud of you. The Teen Space really has been has made a huge impact for our teen users. I know all of you know that, and then also all the additional programming that you helped coordinate and facilitate with us. We are so fortunate to have you. And I know at this time, Trustee Mena, President Mena, is going to come up to the podium. Why don't you go ahead,
Sure.
President
So,
Mena?
yeah, so next we'd like to recognize a special young lady who's been near and dear to us for some time. So I'll walk up. If you have some words you'd like to give as well.
And I think Margie Karp-Oper and Jennifer Preston will bring all of them up. These are all people who have been working with Jessica and Z over the last couple of years. But unfortunately for us, it's bittersweet because we say goodbye. Jessica's been with us for a couple of years now and been working with us, and she did a great job filling some big shoes that we thought, oh my gosh, could they ever be filled? But yes, they were. And Jessica did a fantastic job really leading our teens and working with Z and now bringing Z up to speed, and now Z's that next go-to person for us. So Jessica, we just want to thank you. You have done a fantastic job. I know Jennifer and Margie both want to speak and say something, but I'm so proud of you, and it's sad to see you go. We hope you don't, really leave us, but you keep us in contact. You let us know how you're doing, and at this time, I know that Margie wants to present something, and so does President Mena. So you go ahead. Yes, you go ahead.
Excuse me, Jessica, on behalf of the Novi Library Board of Trustees, I'd like to award this certificate of appreciation to you in recognition for your 2 years of valuable contribution to the Novi Public Library as a student representative. Thank you.
And I too have a little something for you. Sorry, I get so jumped up, it's terrible. Anyway, I'm going to miss her greatly. She's been phenomenal to work with. Thank goodness Z isn't leaving me at the same time. So this is a little something from all of us at the library who have adored working with you and are so very proud of you. Jessica's going to Grand Valley State, so we have a written agreement that if she doesn't come and visit, we will take the library van to Grand Valley State to make sure and find her and make sure we have a little GPS attached to her shoes. So anyway, loads of good luck. I hope it's beautiful, sweetheart. Thank you for everything. Thank you.
Yeah, just we're really lucky every year to work with these student reps, and Jessica holds a special place in my heart, and we're really gonna miss you. Aww. I never have to worry about getting a board report done on time or anything. Jessica has it for me before I even ask. So.
Let's do a quick photo, okay?
Please.
Yes. We'll do a quick one.
Squeeze on the left. Okay, next item on the agenda, our fourth presentation, a recognition. So tonight, we would like to recognize a very special employee who has been with the library for so many years, but sadly will be leaving us soon. So Julie, as I walk to the counter, or to the podium, maybe you can make a few comments?
Absolutely. I feel, Diana, this is really bittersweet for us. Diana's been with the library almost 25 years. It'll be September. So 25 years she's been with us. I've had the pleasure of knowing you for over 7 now. And Diana has worked in the admin office with us, and also most of her career. She's in charge of so many things and to be in charge of so many details. So we appreciate her every day. Meeting rooms we added to the admin office a few years ago when we opened the new building, and that I think became the biggest challenge, and she's done a fantastic job, along with helping Marcia streamline a lot of the different tasks that were going on in the admin office for a number of years. She's been a wonderful employee. I know she's made a number of great friends. All of us are going to miss you when you leave. I know she's looking forward to retirement, but it definitely is a lot of shoes to fill to find someone to be in your place, and you will definitely be missed in our administration office. I wish you the very best, and I hope that you continue to be a patron after you leave us. So, Willie, go ahead and come on up.
So Diane, it's my pleasure on behalf of the Novi Library Board of Trustees to award this certificate to you for 25 years of outstanding performance and lasting contribution to the Novi Public Library. Thank you for your service.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been great working with everyone, and I will miss everyone also.
We'll miss you.
Thank you very much. Absolutely. Thank you.
I think we need to take one more
we
picture.
do.
Yeah, we never have enough pictures.
This is a night of presentation, so come on up here.
Oh, all right.
Thank you so much. Just to add, Diana won't be leaving us until the middle of June, so we have a party and everything planned for her at the library, and we'll be recognizing her more, but we wanted to make sure that before she left us in June, that the library board was part of that presentation and to say farewell to her. So, thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, public comment. This is an opportunity for members of the public to approach the board with anything they'd like to share. We simply ask that you limit your comments to 5 minutes. Would anybody like to come up?
This is the gentleman I was talking about. And the other documents that he gave to Kathy.
Please introduce yourself as well.
My name is Mark Adams. I live on East Lake Drive, 10 houses from Pavilion Park. And Tom and I are about the same age. He gave me a call tonight and said, "Come on up to City Hall." But to keep it in the 5-minute span here, I think it'd be important that the library collect all this history that's out there, and there's a lot of history out there, a lot of photographs, just a lot of stuff. I just met Betty, and I'll see that what I've got, she gets. But I've been collecting this stuff for years, and I was talking to Kathy Crawford, I don't know how many weeks ago, and I said, well, I'll pull out one of my boxes and make you some copies. And I came out with like 420 pages of stuff, and I dropped it off to Jason Magnum. So if you want copies, Jason Magnum. And I dropped it off for Jason. He says, "So is this what you got?" And I go, "No, found another box." So there's a lot of stuff out there. It's a really rich history. The whole history of the Wall Lake Casino was like anybody who was anybody in music from like 1919 into the 60s played at the Wall Lake Casino. All the big names. I met a guy in Milford. He went down to the Musicians Union in Detroit and made lists of all the bands that played there. Jason Magnum's got that too. But there's a wealth of photos out there. There's probably the thing I'd like to see most is that these photos get reproduced. You know, one guy I know, they have a house that the big band stayed in the house. So he says, oh, I got boxes of photos of the big bands. You know, I met another guy whose dad managed the amusement park, and he was a free press photographer. He says, oh, we got boxes of photos, you know. But there's never been that central depository, you know, somebody on staff to coordinate all this. So that's the thing I'd like to see most. You know, I don't know if it's a historical commission, the library, or, you know, who does it, but if you ran an article like in the Sunday News saying we want to collect this stuff and put it out, you know, to the metropolitan Detroit, you would get at least hundreds of photos. And I mean, it's good stuff. And, you know, and artifacts. But, you know, it goes beyond, you know, the casino, it goes beyond, you know, the amusement park. You know, quite a few of the Indian trails all crossed at Walled Lake. There's a real rich Indian history, you know, that goes to Walled Lake. And the stories of, you know, why, you know, is Walled Lake called Walled Lake? You know, and there's, you know, bits and pieces. Oakland County had an 1877, you know, Oakland County history book, which Jason Magnum's got copies of. But they talk about 4 different stone walls at Walled Lake. You know, and I've got information on 2 more stone walls. So there's this whole history of the walls of Walled Lake. You know, the house, I know my 5 minutes is almost up. The house I live in was owned by a guy in the Purple Gang. And, you know, there's that whole history. So, you know, I'll get what I've got, you know, to Betty. You know, I know quite a few people that have, you know, maybe more information than I've got. I know people from the Tuttle family, which was like, you know, the original white settlers, the Austin family, the original white settlers that owned all the amusement park casino property, Taylors that had the original dance hall, Coes, you know, the original doctor in town. So I still know all these families, and they've all got stuff. So I'll keep in touch with Betty. But yeah, a photo project, I think, is the biggest, most important thing, to collect all these photos and reproduce them. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Adams. We definitely will be in contact with you. And what's so great about this is we are now fully equipped and able to handle with our technology the opportunity to do digitization and scan photos and scan documents. You know, we want to be a place, we don't have a place for everything, we can't accept everything because I'm sure there's lots out there, but the fact that we have the opportunity now with digitization is just fantastic, so we thank you so much.
Yeah, 300 photos.
Yep, it doesn't. No, absolutely.
I think that's the big find out there.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda, President's Report. First topic, library goals. Julie?
I just have a couple things to highlight just for this month. You know, we are getting towards the end of the year, and I will be putting together and making sure that everything has been accounted for the end of the year when it comes to all of our strategic objectives and goals that were set by the library board. On page 17, the first one I'd like to highlight in red is we have reached out. We, as you all know, I'm sure, we have a new older adult services supervisor, which is Karen Kepchanik from the city of Novi, and we are now working with her regularly to coordinate opportunities for our older adults. The library is part of an older adults committee, which Karen started up this past winter, and the library is involved. We are also working to look at a possible book discussion group over at the MAC, and so there's definitely lots of opportunity for reaching out to our older adults that's coming up in the future. On page 18, I want to just note that we did have a program that introduced the culture and religions of Arab Christians, Arab Jews, and Arab Muslims at the library. So reaching out in terms of different cultures and different opportunities for learning that was held at the library. Skipping forward to page 22, I wanted to let you know that we are moving forward with a new flyer when it comes to our meeting rooms, and we will be increasing our prices effective July 1st. So that's the first time we will be doing that since we've been in the new building. It's now going to be 4 years, it's hard to believe, on June 1st. And so information's already out there because people are already calling and reserving for the summer, but that'll be the first time that we do an increase. And then moving forward to, let's see, page 24. My last one is just to highlight in the red the library network, which is our consortium. They're getting ready to change over to a new look called Enterprise, which is going to be a new look on our catalog. So just wanting to let you know that we're following up with them and working with them closely. As you know, we're part of a consortium of over 60 libraries, so it's a catalog interface that will change for everyone. Again, more updates and new looks for how we get out information and push information to our community. I'm happy to address any questions on the goals if you have any at this time.
Can you give us just a brief update on the read boxes?
Yes, currently they have been constructed. We worked with DPS to do that. And I have one artist already in place who's going to be decorating one of the boxes and still looking for a second artist. It's still our goal to have them placed by early June, probably the first week. I know that the ITC Park box will probably go in first before the Rotary Park one. But that's, and we'll definitely let you know when they do that. I'm certain that Rotary Park, there will be an unveiling. I'm not quite sure about ITC Park, but definitely with Rotary. Rotary was very generous in giving us the funds to create the boxes and have them decorated and have them placed. There will be 3 boxes once we get going and get those 2 placed this summer. We'll have 3 locations. It'll be Lakeshore Park, ITC Park, and Rotary Park.
Is there any intent to do some sort of, I'll say marketing, for lack of a better word, to the people in that specific area?
Community?
So they know what it is and how to use it?
We haven't thought about it in terms of targeting specifically, but I know Novi News, we'll be reaching out, our e-newsletter and things like that. I know that you live in that area, so we might want to talk and maybe we could do some specifically.
Yeah, it just seems, it's an interesting idea that the more people know what it is and how it works, the more use we'll get out of it.
Absolutely. And we are still planning for weekly deliveries to the boxes so that we're constantly putting in new materials and getting out as much as we can when it comes to reading.
Good, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, the next topic on the President's Report, Director's Annual Evaluation. I understand that the HR Committee will be working on your evaluation, Julie, and soliciting feedback from the entire board. Trustee Verma, would that be the case? You guys are going to be meeting to set that up?
Sure.
Okay. Well, Julie, I'd like to, I'm just wondering if you'd like to continue to handle this as we've done in previous years. That is, would you like to have your review done in executive session after the June 18th board meeting?
I would like to request that. Thank you.
Okay, so noted. Any comments? Okay, next topic on the agenda, Treasurer's Report. Trustee Checkeye?
Thank you. I don't know if you want to take the comments from the Finance Committee meeting that was held a couple weeks ago. I was not able to attend, but I understand the chair was there as well as other members. But I'll defer that for my conversation. I would just like to report at least my understanding as to how the gist of the meeting went on. I'll say 2 main topics. One topic being the presentation of the financials and some of the adjustments that are made. My understanding is that we are truly operating as a cash-based reporting entity, and not until bills come in are they reported, and they are in turn reported back to whenever the month they originated from. For example, if we get a bill for services rendered in the month of January of 2014, and somehow, some way that invoice doesn't get to us or gets lost in the shuffle, if you will, and if it's not paid until May of 2014, there will be an entry that'll go back, an unadjusted item, if you will, for the May numbers, and it'll go back to January. So we're not only cash basis, but it's cash not when paid, but when it was actually incurred. So my understanding is, and I'll let those that were at the meeting get into it, but my understanding is the city's position is we'll accommodate you on most everything we can, but that's one of the items we won't accommodate you on. So that's item number one. Item two, I believe, had to deal with the investment strategy and the investment of our various funds. And I know that we have had some discussions as a board that we would like to see, not so much an aggressive investment strategy, but maybe a more flexible investment strategy from a timing of when we need funds and when we don't need funds. And I think the gist was that the funds for the library have been invested in keeping with the protocol that the city invests their funds, and the city believes, well, and rightfully so, that they are in compliance with their statutory requirements to do so. So until further notice, that policy will continue for the library. So I'll leave that for Chairperson Margolis. I'm sure he'll add something to that. But going back to the budget, I would simply say this, that for all intents and purposes, we are our expenses are, if not fixed, they're certainly constant. And with probably very few exceptions, they're known as to what those expenses will be. We may not know when they're going to happen, but we know within a fairly good range what those expenses are going to be. Probably with the exception, maybe one of the obvious ones would be our utility costs. But once again, based upon past history, we have a pretty good idea when we get into the budget session. So with that in mind, and with the response that was provided by the city finance director as to how expenses will be allocated, I personally, I don't like it. I'm not so sure that's the right way to do it, but if that's how it's going to be, I won't lose any sleep over it. Having said that, for the first 10 months of the year, it appears that we are tracking budget, maybe a little bit ahead of budget. And I would not be surprised if we finished the year maybe $20,000 to $30,000 under where we thought we would be from an expenditure perspective. So for something that we've had a lot of discussion on, we had a fund balance allocation to our 2013-2014 budget of $471,000. Hopefully at the end of the day, when all the numbers are in and the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, maybe we're only taking $450 from that fund balance. So the staff continues to do a good job in watching our resources and keeping us abreast. I would say that in light of the city's comments on these expenses, and I think that Julie and staff have done a good job of letting us know when there's going to be some surprises. And I would say that with the fact that we're a little blinded from the financial reporting perspective, we certainly will rely on you folks as much, if not more, going forward to let us know when there's going to be a hiccup, if you will, or when there's going to be an oops, or when there's going to be a big timing issue. So I would say from that standpoint, we're on track, and I will just leave it at that.
Okay, any comments? Questions, comments?
You mentioned that the deficit was going to be a little lower. Is that because possibly some of those dollars are going to roll into the next year because of the way they're handling the accounting? Or
No, well, it looks like maybe a little bit of expense saving, but also some tax revenue increases.
Okay.
So.
All right, thank you. Next on the Treasurer's Report, the email from Jessica Dory, the Deputy Finance Director. Trustee Checkar, will you be handling that issue, or?
Well, I'd be more than happy to defer or ask the question of the director. I'm not so sure what this is, and I say that because I don't think that we as a library have received the GL balances in the past. We typically get the revenue and expenditure reports.
As I understood it, it was the percentage budget used line was not accurate. So that's when I got the email, that's why I wanted you to know that it wasn't completely accurate, the whole entire report when it was sent to me. That's why I wanted you to be aware. So, and it looks like they aren't expecting the problem to be fixed until early June, so.
But the revenue numbers are correct.
Correct, they are.
And
So
expenditure numbers
everything
on the
really
report.
is, it's just this budget, yeah.
And one of the things that I have talked to Julie about, and hopefully we can have something before we start a new fiscal year. We've discussed in general sense, but I think I'd like to come back to the board with a little different presentation in terms of how we look at our numbers. Candidly, this percentage budget used, this last line item is very, to me, it's very difficult to read, and I think it's somewhat archaic. I would like to see us be able to come back, and I think we can with the staff's help, is break things down into a monthly budget, take our budget and break it down into months, each month. Most of our costs, once again, our expenditures are constant, our revenues are pretty constant. We can certainly, not fudge, but we can certainly massage the rest of them on a, a ratably 1/12 as need be. But then show for purposes of here, for example, the month of May actual versus the month budget, and then the year-to-date through the first 5 months, 6 months, 7 months. That way you get rid of these percentages, and you can look, timing issues aside, you have an idea where we were tracking, where we thought we were supposed to be. Because right now, we use this last column to kind of, especially in the earlier months of the year, if it's the looking at the July budget, it says, well, 85% remaining or 5% used. And so, frequently there's questions, well, when do we get that? When do we spend that? And I think if we can show it on a monthly basis, that'll be a little easier read, I think, for everybody at the table, and maybe help out with some of those other issues, from the city's perspective, in terms of our reporting issues. So, I will work with Julie and staff on that, so we've talked about it, and the idea is before the first of our new fiscal year to at least present something to the board. It's not difficult. It's just a matter of sitting down and doing it. I mean, it's easy for me to help. It's a little bit more difficult there, but once again, most of our things are 12 months. Salaries, payroll.
Yeah,
For the
those are
most
the
part,
easy
it's
ones.
the same for January as it is for December.
Supplies and stuff aren't gonna be as
you know,
easy. Books aren't gonna be as easy, but,
Yeah, well,
see what-
but we won't spend the bulk of it though, when you order books.
Right.
And so forth, once a year, twice a year, 3 times a year, so we can,
well, we
it's a
order
guide, once again, it's a
monthly,
guide.
but, yeah, and I've got a good system that I've given the staff on what they should be ordering each month in terms of a percentage already, so.
And with the,
We'll be happy to sit down.
with the city working on a cash basis, Julie should be able to keep us updated on any big items that they know about that might have got lost over at the city.
But see,
So
that,
we should be
I guess
updated that way, right?
we don't really have anything that gets lost. I'm concerned about that being said, because as we get invoices, they are directly sent to us, and we directly approve them and send them back. We know what's coming and going.
Well, one of the ones you and I talked about earlier was the water and sewage. There was the bill from December through February, and that was a warrant that was just paid for, in this statement right here.
That was
So-
just received, yeah,
So they'll take it back.
right.
I take it. So the
Yeah.
question is, there's a portion in 13 and in 14, so.
Yeah.
Trustee Margolis?
I'm sorry, I need to ask a question. The report that the treasurer presented, is that your personal perspective, or is that your interpretation of the board's perspective?
My personal perspective.
I'm glad you qualified that, because I don't necessarily agree with everything that you've said. Jumping ahead.
Yeah, sure. I mean, if there's no other, if there's no other questions or comments on that last topic, the email that we received, then we can go ahead and jump to the next topic, library financials and Walker Fund.
Well,
It was alluded to in the treasurer's report that the finance committee had met with the city treasurer. I think it would be appropriate
yes,
to get into that discussion, because it's germane.
Agree.
and like I said, I wasn't there. That was my gist from looking at some emails, but treasurer or committee chair Margolis was there, so he could.
So go ahead, you have the floor.
You did get the gist of the meeting correct. As long as we continue to share services with the city, and we're appreciative of the stewardship function that they provide, rather than act as a totally independent agency and create our own internal financials, we are reliant then on the information being provided to us. As I personally have objected to over the last several meetings, and I'm now done tilting at windmills, Don Quixote is laying down his lance. I've come to the conclusion that the year-to-date information being provided to us, the feedback that we're getting in the form of the financial statements, is correct and reliable. There are always going to be timing differences, but where the disconnect I had was relying from meeting to meeting, looking at current period activity and making managerial decisions, how well or how effective we were, when in fact we didn't have all the pieces to the puzzle. Okay? So I would suggest don't even bother analyzing the current activity, because it doesn't reflect everything being funded in the current period, which is what we approved with the warrant process, nor does it reflect all the bills that have been accommodated, because as the treasurer so succinctly said, they post them retroactively. Okay? The best we can do is get a feel for the utilization of the budget and on a year-to-date basis compare how we're trending relative to the assumption, monthly progress. So if you've got 10 months out of 12 under your belt, you assume to be about 83% of the way there. And if we're exceeding that, the red flags need to go off in advance prior to getting to the end of the year and then finding out, oh, we've exceeded our authority here and now we have issues. Okay? So it is what it is. I don't particularly care for the presentation. I still think it's relevant for us to look at the categories of expenditures, maybe not get as focused on the line items. There are going to be fluctuations. Everything is not going to be equal. Some items are quarterly. Pay weeks, sometimes there's 3 pay weeks in a month, and that will distort things. But for the most part, we can accept at face value the progress year to date. And I agree with the interpretation that we're trending, that we will not exceed the authority given to the administration for the current fiscal year of $481,000 deficit. It should come in something south of that. The other monkey wrench that comes in is the concept of the mark-to-market of the investments. And we recognize market fluctuation gains and losses, and those vary, and they're not consistently provided. But in the balance sheets that we're getting, at least on a quarterly basis, we get a better feel. So the financials that we're looking at now reflect the fact that there was some $10,000 to $20,000 worth of market gains from the last time we looked at the information provided us. It's irrelevant. It is what it is, and what the cards will play as of June 30th. And I think that we'll be able to close the door when the audit's done. The bigger part of the conversation during the meeting was the fact that the city administration, especially under the direction of Mr. Johnson, is aware that they're currently not under full compliance and would like our assistance as it relates to having the Walker Fund as a separate fund being accounted for. And there is no budget in place, and we have an opportunity to address that prior to the end of the fiscal year, which is when they need to be in compliance. So one of the items on the agenda is, and it was presented on page 36, is a sample or a suggested simple budget that we can do, and basically recognizes the year-to-date revenues that have already been funneled through Fund 269 and the expenditures already made. But whether it is positive or negative is almost irrelevant, because again, the cards are going to play. And we're not going to know what the investments between now and June 30th anyway. So this is more working in cooperation with them and being in compliance. Secondarily, we're gonna need to do the same thing, because we failed to do this at our budget session back in the spring. For the next fiscal year, we'll need to set a budget if we continue to use two separate funds, 268, 269. And that's where the conversation segued a little bit. It was some of the discussion during the course of the past year or so to investigate other type of investment opportunities, whether it be using community foundations or something of that nature. We've been strongly discouraged to go down those roads. We would need to provide the city with a valid legal opinion giving us the authority to move forward, and I'm not sure whether it's worth the expenditure to do that, because I don't know that the city will not accept it at face value. In fact, the evidence is to the contrary. They would probably dig their heels in and probably not pursue that option. But if we, still looking forward, the intent when the Walker agreement expired, we had the ability to combine both funds 260 and 269 together, if we so choose. And we can either designate or restrict funds, or they could be totally unrestricted, our choice. Given that we still don't have a definitive answer, it'd be my recommendation from the committee that we at least maintain the Fund 269, whether we change the name from the Walker Fund to a capital expenditure, future capital expenditure fund or something of that nature, and we start doing some advanced planning on where some of the bigger dollars will need to be spent going further, whether it's in the technology budget, whether it's in the facility budget, or whatever, and keep that separate from 268, which is more operational in orientation. That would be my suggestion. That also being said, we need to simplify things, and we don't need to have so many smallish, restricted funds that it's hard to track the activity. And I think the director has taken that under advisement and wants to simplify things. I think it's also her intent to do it on a gross basis, and by that I mean to have a separate revenue or incoming fund identifier and a separate expenditure related to the same activity, as opposed to netting them together and not knowing exactly how well you're allocating the resources that you were entrusted for whatever purpose was originally designated. So that was the gist of the conversation. That was my takeaway coming from it, and I would refer to Trustee Stern if they had any other observations.
I was also at the meeting, and I really agree with both what Trustee Checkeye said and what Trustee Margolis said. I'm only going to say a few things that maybe I'll say it in a little bit different way. Maybe perspective's a little bit different. But, you know, for the last couple of months, I think there was some disappointment in terms of sort of retroactively changing statements, or it appeared to change statements from prior months, or we could have trouble tracking them. And the takeaway was, you know, those bills are going to be processed when they're processed, and they're going to reflect the time period for when those bills occurred. Not necessarily that anybody was late or something in forwarding them. It's just in the process of when the city gets them. City gets them in March, but if they reflect a February activity, they're going to reflect in the February statement. They reflect January activity, they're going to, not necessarily anybody's doing anything wrong, but it was pretty clear that the city is not going to change that process, and we're not going to get the footnotes. The thing that I would like to highlight really in regard to that, and I don't really think Trustee Checkeye or Trustee Margolis said it, and if they did, I apologize for repeating it. That being said, those are relatively small amounts relative to the overall monthly expenditures, because the largest monthly expenditure is payroll. 75, 80% is payroll, and therefore, that is always current. So therefore, to the extent that we were very perceptive in noticing these changes, how come did the February statement change or the March? It's really, not big numbers in the total scheme of things, because the biggest number is payroll, and that shows up currently reflected in statements. So we were a little concerned with some numbers, but the takeaway for me was that in the scheme of things, those are relatively small numbers, even though they may be posted back for a prior month or 2 months, depending upon when they're received. And once again, it's not because anybody's processing them slowly necessarily. Sometimes the vendors don't send them right away. So that was my take. The other thing, I would just, reinforce what Trustee Margolis said relative to the Walker Fund, or whatever we decide to call it, is that there still is, some indecision on whether we want to try to invest that in community foundation, and it's my preference, as it is Trustee Margolis, that may result in a little bit more accounting work, but that we at least maintain its separate identity for a while until we can continue to investigate that, because clearly the funds that came into the Walker funds were not quote-unquote taxable dollars. They were a donation of some sort, and therefore they have at least the appearance that they may be treated other than property taxes and other revenue that are not donated funds, and that may be relevant ultimately in the interpretation of what can be done with them and whether they can be invested in community foundation funds or something like that. So I would agree with Trustee Margolis that it may be a little bit more work for the staff, but we always ask the staff to do a little bit more work, but that we maintain the identities until we can fully investigate that and come to a more crystal decision. That probably is a little bit different direction than I was leaning to a couple months before, so I'm kind of changing my position on that a little bit, that I think there is some merit to maintain those in a separate fund, but I also agree to the extent there's a lot of accounts and line items in there that can be consolidated, I think that we should do that as well. So anyway, that's my take. I don't think it was different, but a little bit perspective, maybe just stated a little bit differently.
Any additional comments? Okay, I just wanted to point out that we still have these topics coming up during the financial committee report. I'll let you guys decide whether we need to continue this discussion at that time. And then we also have an action item for an adoption of the Fund 269 Walker Fund. So I'm assuming that that's Walker Fund budget. So I'm assuming that that's still on the table and we can address that later on the agenda. Okay, thank you then. Next topic under Treasurer's Report is the Library Cafe revenue report. Julie, I don't believe we have anything there this month.
We did not receive anything to date, yes.
Okay, thank you then. Next item on the agenda, Director's Report. Julie?
Okay, so looking at page 37, just a few things to highlight for you. We were open early and welcomed voters to the library on Election Day, which was May 6th. Smaller turnout than normal, but I do want to congratulate our Novi Community School District for passing their bond. That keeps the kids obviously going, and they have some fantastic projects that they're going to be working on, and we are definitely in support of them and anything new that perhaps the library might be able to get involved in. Yes?
Before you leave the topic of election, do you have an opinion relative to the failure of the Birmingham Library issue that
I have to, I do have an opinion, and it is, I want to make sure it's my personal opinion. I was quite surprised, to be very honest, and I know Doug very well, the director over at Baldwin, very surprised at the margin and the vote that actually turned out to be negative towards the library. They presented very good facts, very good plans, to their community. I know that he did a lot of work with the community in terms of trying to explain why they would make the renovation work and the costs for what they were doing. It was very surprising to me.
I honestly felt that it was actually going to pass. So when I saw those numbers, it was quite surprising. And I was very surprised at how much it actually went down and was not voted. I know that they had a strong group that was against the library in terms of renovation, and I know that there was a group that felt that they were looking for over $20 million in terms of a bond for the and it was a renovation, not a brand new building, but for all of the renovation work to be done. I am well aware, though, that what they were doing was trying to bring back historical perspectives to the building, which it is very costly to do that. So it was very surprising.
So do we have lessons learned in terms of what it may imply for us going forward?
I guess I haven't.
It's a different set of circumstances.
I think it is a different set of circumstances. And I mean, I think they're doing very comparable things that we are, but I think maybe the community has changed a little bit in Birmingham from when I was there 7 years ago, and, you know, there might be different philosophies for library service that I think might be coming from the community as well. So maybe that, I know that that might be something that they're going to be working on to change and improve. And they'll go ahead with smaller renovation work from what I understand. It just won't be at the large scope that it was presented. Oh, no, not at all. The next thing I wanted to highlight was the 28th Annual Book and Author Luncheon. This has been going on for a number of years, and Novi, along with Plymouth District Library and Canton Library and the Northville District Library, we have been fortunate to be partners in. We welcomed the author Marty Jo Link to speak as our keynote for that event, and it welcomed close to 200 in attendance to listen to this author and to talk about her memoir. Great book about her life and her story raising 3 sons and very tight budgets and some unique things going along. So if you're looking for a great memoir to read, I highly recommend it. And I'd like to thank the Friends of the Novi Public Library because they are our partners in this. They work with the other libraries and their friends group to bring this event on. So it's something that our friends bring to us and we help build for them each year. I gave a little bit of an update on the Read Box already. We're working on a shirt fundraiser, so I'm working locally with a local business to get that going, and that will, the shirt is going to be sales that we will have with our new library motto of inform, inspire, and include. We hope to get those going by middle of June when summer reading begins so that we can entice young readers and teen readers and older readers to purchase the shirt and to participate and support the library. As you know, Diana Gertzen is leaving us. We recognized her this evening, and we are currently looking to fill her position. One of the budgetary changes that I've made is Diana was a full-time employee with the library, and we've looked at all of Diana's work and what she's provided and made some tweaks in the admin office, and we did post it as a part-time position for 18 hours. So I wanted to make the board aware of that. So there will be some changes as we move forward with budget because obviously we didn't know that at the time. A number of things I noted for where I've been in the community over the last few weeks. We are working closely, just want to mention, with our business community and our business owners here in Novi to get them access to the library, specifically our databases. They don't necessarily use the library. What we hope they are using the library for is our business resources and databases such as Reference USA. So we want to encourage them, and we've been reaching out through the Chamber of Commerce and individually to get to connect with our business owners. They are obviously paying tax dollars, and we feel that there is a need for them to connect with us when it comes to business resources and with the library. And then our Finance Committee, you have the agenda that was presented. Following on pages 39 and 40 are the reports from Margie Karp-Oper for Public Services and Mary Ellen Mulcrone for Building Operations. One thing I'd like to point out under Mary Ellen's report on page 40, third paragraph down, is we have added another courtesy notice to our patrons using email notification to remind them of when library materials are due. And so if you see in the paragraph now, there's 5 different ways that we try to alert our patrons to when materials are becoming due. So we hope that we're trying very hard to communicate with them, and to let them know when those due dates are so that they work with us so that they don't accrue fines. We want to be able to have those materials back as quickly as possible, so we make them available to other patrons of the library, and this is our way of doing that. So just another notification that's gone on. Yes.
Trustee Margolis?
Yeah, before we leave your main section of your report, I think you're being a little modest, since you failed to mention you being published,
Oh.
the cooperative effort between the former city manager
Well,
and the
I shared it with
library
all of
director.
you. I did. I had the opportunity to work with our former city manager, Clay Pearson, to write an article about library and city relationships. It was an easy article to write, let me share with you, because we've had a great experience with our city and the governance, and I look forward to a new city manager coming on board and us having that same relationship, if not bigger and better. But what we talked about in the article was just ways that we've been able to partner together, work together in terms of, sharing finances and working with our finance department, working with our HR department, changing marketing opportunities, joining the Engage a number of years ago and changing the way that we put out information to our community. These were things that we wrote up in the Library Journal of Administration. It's the first time that I've been published, so it was pretty exciting. And I received notices from all of you. I appreciate the kudos back. It was pretty exciting to have something out there and to be sharing really with other libraries what they can be doing with their city government and how things, really, we gave ideas, how they might want to think about if they were moving forward and trying to bridge gaps, how they might be able to do that with some of the experiences that we've had. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions here? Okay, looks like, go ahead.
If I may, just a brief comment. When I was at the welcome desk a couple weeks ago on a Monday night, had a real pleasant experience. A gentleman came in and started talking to us, was very complimentary about the library, talked about how pleasant the staff was, how he enjoyed coming here. He then proceeded to take his credit card out of his wallet and ask if he could make a donation, which we, of course, graciously accepted. So it was nice to get the contribution, but it was also really nice to hear someone walk in off the street and just heap praise on the facility and the staff. So.
And to add to that, we probably weekly get something from someone who will write a comment. In fact, just today, something came across my desk saying, please thank your staff for the wonderful service that I received at the library. Sometimes they actually put their name and number, and we'll contact them and let them know and thank them for it. Other times it's, anonymous. But I have to say we have a fantastic staff, and I do think they work very hard at customer service and trying to work, even in sticky situations, when it comes to paying fines and stuff, they work really hard at working with our patrons. So thank you very much. I appreciate that.
My pleasure.
Who knew we had a closer?
That's right, there you go.
Well, last Monday when I was working, interesting, there was a gentleman, he kept walking in and out of the library, and we finally asked, he went by once and he just said, she's gone, and then he just walked away, and we were wondering, she's gone, who's gone, And then, so we finally stopped him after he kept going in and out. Do you have a problem? Have you looking for somebody? My daughter is gone. She was here in the library. She was like 6, 7 years old. And so one of the ladies said, last time I seen her, she went into the ladies' room. So they went in, checked the ladies' room, nobody there. And the one lady says, well, that's the only restroom we have. I says, well, I know there's restrooms on the second floor. So went up to the second floor, and she wasn't there. So one of the girls just went around everywhere into the library trying to see where she was, and she was watching a puppet show. But he was very appreciative of the service that, trying to help find his daughter, and we were happy we got that settled.
Absolutely.
It was really good service.
They try, I think they do a really good job at watching people and watching faces and observing our patrons to see if there's more that we can help with. I do. And I appreciate you being on the welcome desk, be very honest, because it gives you an opportunity to see what's going on a daily basis. And I'm sure, and my purpose for doing that was so that you could see a little bit of behind the scenes of what's going on with patrons. I think it's helpful for you to get a good perspective that way. So I thank you for doing that. To continue, pages 42,
Well,
43.
just to note, so yeah,
Sorry.
we actually rolled into item 11, additional reports. I think we're
Yes.
down to library usage statistics at this point.
I am.
Okay, thank you.
And it's pages 42, 43. I do want to make a note. There is a correction you need to be aware of on page 43, from page 42 to 43. So if you look at items checked out, the total is 662,591. It's misreported down on page 43. When you look at the total fiscal year to date, it says 662,791. So I just want to make sure you're aware of that the numbers were, that it is the 662,591 number that is correct. Pages 44 and 45 talk about logins, and then 45 talks about early literacy workstation usage and how we're doing there. Numbers, for the most part, are going up in terms of usage, which is great to see. Page 47, I want to make note, Freegal is our downloadable music, Overdrive is ebooks and audiobooks, and Zydio is downloadable magazines. We have just signed another new contract with Zinio, so we will be able to provide another year of magazines, full text, to our patrons. There's over 200 titles, and we keep adding new titles all the time. And in fact, a title that's sitting on my brain right now is American Girl, which if you had two daughters, ages 6 and 9, you'd be very interested in that magazine, and to know that I'm paying for it and it's coming to home, and now I could get it electronically is pretty exciting. So I say that because I want other parents, and other patrons to realize there are some fantastic magazines out there that we are constantly subscribing to and making available. Also, we've just started promoting it, and we'll start with the marketing, but we were given the opportunity to bring in an actual display and demo screen from Overdrive, which is the company we work with for our downloadable ebooks and audiobooks, so that people can visualize the collection and the different materials that are available. Mary Robinson, who is one of our librarians, works specifically on our electronic materials, and she was the one to bring that in and to make that available. So it's going to be something that people will be able to go up to, browse, touch screen, and look at those titles, and then what you can do is you can text or send an email. So if you want one of those titles, when you get home, you can download it and put it onto your device and use it. So it's pretty exciting, just as an in the building type of demo and usage material that we've added. And then on pages 48 and 49, charging station statistics, meeting rooms, again, doing fantastic with meeting rooms as always. And then 49, which is our app, our library app, as you can see the numbers. If you look at January, we were at 16,000, just over. February 14, March 21, and April 22. So our library app is still very popular and gets lots of usage, and we're very proud of that. And that would be it for those particular reports. I do have draft minutes that I've included on page 50, which is the Friends of the Novi Library from their board meeting. This is draft, hasn't been approved yet. I just want to make sure you're aware. A couple things I want to bring to your attention is we did hold our North End project, and that was in partnership with the Friends of the Novi Library and with MSU Tollgate. That was this past Saturday on May 17th. We had just over 300 in attendance for that 2-hour event where the kids got to experience story time, new animals that had been born at the farm. There was fishing. There was creating your own salad bowl in vegetables. It was so awesome. Kids got to learn about vegetables and eating. And then there was also a project where they could grow, they could start to grow from seed. And then we also had a quilt making. The kids got to create their own quilting square, and the MSU Tollgate quilting group is going to work with us to create a quilt for our library from that program. So we had wonderful feedback. The other thing I want to note from that program is you remember the large map in my office that showed where our library card holders are. I took that with me that day and push pins, and as people were coming in, I stopped each family that was coming in and asked them where they lived and where they were coming from. It was great for us to find out, and surprisingly, it was all over Novi, not just one certain area, but we really for me, that tells me that marketing is going up to the north end. There is definitely, we want to reach out more to them because that was less, but we are reaching all corners of Novi, and so that was great to have that feedback, and I'll be sharing that with you and letting you know more about it. We will also, I think, bring that map back and do that for Fall for Novi and some other big programs that we know that we're targeting a large attendance to find out where our patrons are coming from in the community. So that was a first-time trial for us that worked out really well. I also want to point out that they do have new board nominations coming up for their annual meeting. Their annual meeting is scheduled for June 11th at 7 p.m., and that is at the library. Currently, the nominations are for President Sue Johnson, Vice President Carol Bauer, Treasurer Marilyn Amberger, Secretary Julie Abrams. And all the current trustees will be coming back except for Jim McLean, who will be retiring, and we'll make sure that we make note of that. I also want to put out a very special thank you to Pat Brunette. Pat has done an amazing job, only because of bylaws and what they say in terms of their years of holding office is Pat leaving. He's been a fantastic president, and he has really worked with their group to really build them up and to build up the activities that the Friends have been taking part in over the last few years. I truly thank him for his leadership. And he's been wonderful to work with. And now I know that Sue Johnson, I know she's a nominee, but I'm very confident that she'll come on board as president. I think we're going to have just as wonderful a president coming in to fill Pat's shoes. So just a little call out to Pat, and what he's done over the years has been wonderful. And we are planning, we just had a meeting actually this week with the Friends because we're planning a fall gala, and that is going to be a partnership with the Friends and the library this fall. So we've started our planning. You'll be hearing a lot more in terms of details. We did finalize on a date, and it will be in October. It's actually during the Recognition of Friends week, so it's going to be the last Friday in October, the 24th. So it's not the last Friday, it'd be 1 week. So it is the 24th of October that we will hold the event. It's from 7 to 9. It'll be just for a couple hours, but this is an opportunity for us as a library to thank people who have been supporters, sponsors, and have given in the past towards the library, as well as an opportunity for the Friends to thank their membership and to gain new membership if there's an opportunity that night. So we're really excited about doing something together for this event, and more details to come. And that's all I have when it comes to that, and I'm now going to finish.
There you go. Now, we're going to give you a breather here, hopefully, but any questions? Okay, seeing, and we had no historical commission report, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Next topic on the agenda, student representative report.
So to kick off the month, we had Teen Book Club, which was a good success with 8 people. And then on April 4th, we had the Teen Advisory Board meeting, where we talked about the summer reading program and volunteer opportunities for students. And we also had 8 students show up for that. Following the TAB meeting, we had 6 students who participated in spring craft making. So they were making little eggs and things like that.
Okay, and then we had our teen writing contest. It went from January 6th to March 14th. And then we had our first place winner as Alina Hawk. And then second place, Lauren Matson, and third place, Vaishnavi Paranakushnam. Yeah, they were able to win a chance for a $50 gift card to Barnes & Nobles. And then for Teen Space, it remained strong with 558 students in 15 sessions, and that was about 38 students per session. And then the last day for Teen Space is May 30th, so that's coming up quick. And then for upcoming programs, we have our Teen Volunteer Orientation, June 2nd and 4th at 4:30, and then tie-dye day on June 17th. Yeah.
Super.
And then we welcome Rushira Ankir Reddy again as a student representative once again.
Yes, Rushira will take Jessica's chair starting in June. So we look forward to introducing her. And again, we thank you, Jessica, for all of your years and for all of the talents you've brought to the Student Representative Board. Thank you.
Trustee Margolis?
Get a random thought here. I don't know what the normal protocol is with the game plaques when somebody's done with them. But it would be nice to give Jessica.
Yes, we do.
Okay, good.
I think we give them to them.
Okay, if no more comments, we'll go to the next action item. Committee reports. We touched on two already. First, the HR committee. I think earlier we discussed that the HR committee will be getting together between now and the next board meeting to begin the library director evaluation. Would that be correct, Trustee Rima? Okay. And in addition, I think that we probably still have some more conversation around the finance committee. Trustee Margolis?
Yeah, I alluded to page 36, the suggested budget, which is for us to act on. And with respect to budget requirements as far as the city's concerned, it's more the expenditure side that's the focus rather than the revenue side. So you can err whether you're aggressive or conservative on the revenue side, but you can't exceed the board authority of the expenditures that have been budgeted for without the board taking action. So if you'll notice the suggestion here on a year-to-date basis through 5/31, they're projecting estimated revenues of $41,432. So if you would set a revenue budget goal of $40,000, you're great. With respect to total appropriations, they're tracking right now at $24,871. But again, if you set the budget at break even, so you have expenditures of 40, revenues of 40, net fund balance difference is 0, you're actually allowing yourself the opportunity to gain $16,000 differential if indeed you don't expend the full 40.
Okay, any questions on this one? Now this, I guess I'm going to defer to Trustee Margolis. This is an action item tonight for approval. Is it the recommendation of the chair to have trustees approve this tonight?
Well, it is item 16. It would be the recommendation of the finance committee, again, as a symbol of our spirit of cooperation with the city to get in compliance, that we adopt a budget at minimum for the current fiscal year expiring June 30th, 2014, and then prospectively we can look at resetting another one for next fiscal year. But it would be appropriate tonight, and I think the suggestion made using these numbers, 40-40 and net fund balance 0 as a guideline, I would certainly recommend putting forth that into a motion.
So I'm okay since we're at the topic now, if we want to take this as an action item and vote on that now. So is there any more comments before I ask for a motion? Can I get a motion?
I'll move to adopt that as our budget for Fund 269 Water Library. Support.
Okay, we have a motion, we have support. Any additional comments? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. We also have, I believe we have a discussion item still, and I'm a little confused as to whether or not we've addressed this fully. It's the transferring of the Walker funds. I believe we had a recommendation that we were going to table that, or that we weren't going to go move forward with that. Would that be correct? That we're going to leave the fund the way it is now?
The discussion went that way. The finance committee is not suggesting that we do any formal transfer, so I'm
Okay. Very well. I just, and that was my understanding before. I just wanted to make sure we were on the same page. Okay. So any more comments on committee reports? Okay, seeing none. Next item is our second public comment. This is an opportunity for members of the public to approach the board with anything they'd like to share. Again, we simply ask that they limit their comments to 5 minutes. Would anybody like to approach the board? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to matters for board action. The first item is the driver's license verification policy. I'm sorry, this was matters for board discussion. This is a driver's license verification policy. Julie, this is an item that we discussed in last month's meeting. So I think it's just a placeholder for now, and that we'll be ready to take this as a board action for the June meeting, correct?
Yes, that is what I'm hoping. I still had additional information and edits to be pulling together. Took me a little longer than I thought. So it is my hope that I'll be bringing it back for the June meeting.
Okay. I think then we've pretty much covered matters for board discussion. And since we...
With the chair's permission, I would like to put on the next month's agenda, maybe retitling Fund 269 for the next fiscal year.
Okay, I'm okay with that. Any comments on that? So Julie, will we get that on the agenda for next month?
And that will be a matter for board action.
Okay. We did have some discussion on that today, so I think that would be appropriate. Okay, so we have, now our next topic was matters for board action, but we have already addressed that issue tonight. Seeing that then, we just looking for a motion to adjourn at this point.
Oh, okay.
We should start that, we should make that a tradition, so we would be
Then,
okay.
yes, I would like to have a motion to adjourn.
Look at how excited she is.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Yeah, second, there you go. We have a motion to adjourn, we have a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. This meeting is now adjourned, thank you.